In this video, we're going to be looking at a Alligator Creek invasive plant control project. This is a creek that is in the city of Starke in Bradford County, Florida. It's a wetland that has become heavily infested with a large number of invasive plants. One of the first steps we're doing here is mowing, simply so that we can have better access to the site. We're using a DR all-terrain mower, which does a good job of mowing trails, reduces some fairly large material quite easily. And in this particular case, we have a lot of blackberries that are a problem. By running the mower back and forth into the berries, we can reduce the brambles. And in this case, we're trying to gain access to an invasive tree, a Chinese tallow tree, which we'll be looking at a little bit later in the video, using one of the techniques to control invasive plants that we're dealing with. As you can see, it would not be pleasant to try to work through these blackberry brambles to get to this particular tree. The all-terrain mower does a good job on uneven ground and allows you to get into fairly tight spots. This is one of the tools that we're using. We call this our daub. It's a herbicide applicator attached to the handles of a Fisker's lopper. The blue cushion is made out of actually a bingo marker, and that controls the flow of herbicide. When we cut the stem with the lopper, then we simply touch the tip to the cut stem, and this applies the herbicide. This again was a very small Chinese tallow, but we can use it on larger tallow. Here we're up to trees that are about 1 inch in diameter, and you can very quickly cut a fairly large number of trees. Takes a few minutes to cut maybe 50 trees when they're nice and dense, like you have like in this situation here. If you cut a tree that you don't want to kill, you simply don't bother to touch the tip to it and apply the herbicide. We can also use this same lopper on some much larger trees. It's a little more takes a little more pulling on the lopper to get the cut done. Here we're cutting probably a tree that's close to 2.5 inches in diameter. The same method applies, except all you have to do is apply the herbicide to the outer ring of the stem. Another larger stem, requiring quite a bit of exertion, but it gets the job done. We've also developed a slight modification in the technique to cut trees that are too large for the lopper to fit around. If you simply cut a slight notch in one side of the tree, which is what we're doing here, then the back half of the lopper can fit into that notch until you can get the lopper totally around the stem. These trees were fairly large. In fact, you can see a tree in the background there that was probably 5 or 6 inches in diameter. And at the time that we were doing this, they were flowering, but these trees would have flowered last year as well and would have produced seeds. And it's the seeds that are such of a problem in this wetland situation, because they float then out into all parts of the site when the site floods. This is the actual bud or flower of one of the Chinese tallow that we just cut. This is the area where you can see that it was flooded this spring and had obviously flooded in the past, and the seeds from the Chinese tallow were carried out into this area. And again, the daub gives you a convenient way to go through and cut small trees fairly quickly and remove them from a wetland setting. This is another tool we've developed. We call it the daub, and it's made out of a piece of tube from a bicycle. Has the same applicator, and basically it works by hacking a groove through the bark so that the tree is totally girdled, and then we use the applicator to put herbicide into that groove. And the herbicide in this case, and also in the case with the daub, is 100% clear cast. The herbicide is taken up by the tree and then kills the tree. We've added a dye to the herbicide so that it's easy to see that we're getting good coverage. This is the larger tree that we had mowed around earlier in the video. We're going to be coming in now and using the hack and daub to treat this particular tree. It takes about the same amount of time to use a hack and daub on this tree as it would to cut it down with a chainsaw. The advantage of the hack and daub is that it fits easily in your pants and you can carry it into the field. At this point we're probably a good half a mile from the car or truck, and it would have been fairly labor intensive to be carrying the chainsaw all this way just to cut a single tree or even a few trees. This is another invasive plant we're dealing with. It's called ardisia. We're going to be using the lop and daub on this tree. We actually have another tool called a snip and daub that we use on ardisia that are much smaller. It's simply the same type of applicator, fits on a garden snips. Again, we're applying herbicide to the cut stem, and because the ardisia has so many seeds on it, we don't want to just leave it lying there, and because those seeds will resprout, and so we've picked it up and we're going to be putting it in a compost bin. And we're experimenting to see whether this method will help reduce seed spread of this particular plant. About a month ago we had a bunch of volunteers that came into this site and simply cut the seed heads off of the ardisia, and we've put them all in this compost unit, and you can see here they're drying out. And we'll be seeing whether these seeds will sprout or whether they will be killed by the composting process. This project is being conducted by the Bradford Soil and Water Conservation District with grant support from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation.